to the Balanced Blonde podcast, Soul on Fire. If you are new here, welcome to our tribe. And if you aren't, then welcome back. We love you. We're so glad to have you here. I'm especially excited about today's episode, even though I know I say that every week, but I really am, because we have one of my teachers and someone who I've really looked to for inspiration a lot in the last year and finally got to sit down and chat with and completely hit it off with, if I do say so myself, because she's just so fun and easy to get along with and hilarious and not at all a serious spiritual teacher in the way that you might think. Serious, yes, because she's obviously serious about her practice, but stuffy, no. She's down to earth, hilarious, up in the ethers, all at the same time. And the woman who I'm talking about is Guru Jagat. She is the author of Invincible Living, which is a book all about Kundalini practices, Kundalini Yoga. She is the founder of Rama Institute for Applied Yogic Science and Technology, which is a Kundalini Yoga studio, but also a gathering place for wellness trendsetters and teachers who want to learn how to use Kundalini and meditation as a tool to chemically release, strengthen, and activate the genetic code while igniting the energy centers of the body, mind, and spirit. So not only is there a Rama here in Venice that I go to, but there's also one in New York that I serendipitously stumbled into the last time I was in the city, and I was wandering the East Village looking for Chill House, which is a very trendy kind of like adaptogenic latte place and self-care spa center, all these cool things. And I saw Chill House, realized I couldn't even drink any of their lattes because of the sugar and that they use in their nut milks, which is a whole long story about why I'm not doing that type of sugar right now. But anyways, I knew I was led there for a reason because it led me into Rama. Rama was right across the street from Chill House, and I was in this kind of funky area deep into the East Village, pretty far from what I'm used to, being a West Village girl myself when I used to live in the city, and I always stay in Cooper Square at the Standard. So I wasn't that far from this area, but I also wasn't that familiar with it. So I knew that I saw Rama for a reason, just like Kundalini plopped itself into my life for such a huge reason. And before we start the episode, I'll remind you guys of that story just super briefly. But first, I'll keep telling you about the things that Guru Jagat does because she's amazing. So she started Rama in June 2013, which is actually exactly when I started my blog. Yet another connection between her and I that makes me so happy. It's a beautiful studio. They also have one in Mallorca, Spain, and there's some fun things coming up there that we talk about at the end of the episode that I might actually be involved in, which would be even cooler for me to a whole new level. There are so many different programs on Rama's website. They have Rama TV. Guru Jagat has a podcast. She's all over the press. She's been in Vogue. Anyone who's been in Vogue is legit, wouldn't you say? I mean, wow, so cool to be in Vogue for Kundalini. And just lots of awesome things happening. We talk a lot in this episode about the Aquarian Age, and she actually explains why it's the Aquarian Age. We don't just kind of chit-chat about it for the sake of talking about the concepts of the Aquarian Age, but she explains how we shifted from the Piscean Age to the Aquarian Age, and we go over so much. We also talk about the fact that she is in love, and we discuss relationships and what it's like to have that type of love, that type of support in your life, but also how powerful it is to be a powerful single woman in this day and age. We talk about so many different things. We talk about Yogi Bhajan being her teacher, the teacher who brought Kundalini Yoga to the West and really introduced the practice to Western women. And how special is that? Because now we all get to reap the benefits. So the brief little story about Kundalini popping into my life out of nowhere was that I was always a yogi, started doing vinyasa yoga when I was about 12 years old, had heard a lot about Kundalini, didn't really know what it was, wasn't really interested. It sounded like a lot of sitting around and meditating and chanting and not getting sweaty and not getting out of my head. But I think the practice turned me off because I was scared to sit still. And one day, in early 2017, not long after I started this podcast. So if you've been listening for a while, you already know the whole evolution. But I started obsessing about introducing Kundalini into my life to the point where Ben, who writes the show notes of this podcast, told me, Jordan, you talk about Kundalini in every episode. It's time to do some Kundalini, like maybe write a blog post about it or learn more about it because you keep talking about it. So I just, kept hearing about it, kept thinking about it. Things started presenting themselves to me. Books about Kundalini started radiating on shelves at yoga studios and meditation studios to the point where I had to purchase those books, bring them home and read them. And I still didn't feel like I had much of a grasp on Kundalini Yoga. And then I serendipitously found myself speaking at a women's retreat in Santa Barbara called the Happiness Retreat a little over a year ago. And I went there because Ashley, my photographer, her friend was putting it on and she asked me to be a part of it. And I said yes. And then I was driving in my car to Santa Barbara thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I going to Santa Barbara for the afternoon? That's far. I need to start, having more boundaries, saying no, doing all these things. Then I got there and it was very clear to me what I was doing there and why. And all of the resistance melted away because not only was it a beautiful retreat with amazing people and such an amazing woman who puts the retreats on, but also I met two shining souls named Brittany and Tara, who you may know from this podcast. Formerly High Vibe Living was their brand. Now it's Elevate the Globe, and they have their own podcast now, the Elevator Podcast, and it's so amazing. They came up to me at the event and they said, we're Kundalini teachers in Los Angeles and we would love to give you a private. And right then and there, I was like, you guys, I've been dying to learn more about Kundalini. This is insane. This is so insane. We've got to do it. So I started doing privates with them. They introduced me to some good studios here around LA. That's how I discovered Guru Jagat and Tage, who I love. I take her class a lot at Nine Treasures in West Hollywood. And then I bought Guru Jagat's book, started really, really, really looking to her for inspiration, and the rest is history. So Kundalini is a huge part of my life now. It takes me out of my head. I learned that it actually is a very good workout for the nervous system, for the core, for the whole body. Oftentimes in class, you'll be jumping up and down, practically doing jumping jacks for a much longer amount of time than you could ever believe. Kundalini is all about getting you out of your head, making you uncomfortable, making you angry almost at how uncomfortable you are, and then being able to shift back from that. So it's pretty amazing. That's at least my take on it, but I know there's so much more to Kundalini applied yogic science, and we dive into that in this episode. But before we do, we're going to talk about today's sponsor, Four Sigmatic. I am such a huge fan of Four Sigmatic for so many reasons. The adaptogenic mushroom coffee that I have been raving and raving about for a long time now. It was kind of sad because during the time that I had really bad eczema and hives, I didn't have any mushrooms in my life because I wasn't sure if they were contributing to the rashes that I was having, allergic reactions, whatnot. But I quickly learned once I reintroduced them into my life that they weren't causing the reaction, thankfully. So I'm back on my daily caffeine-free chaga, which I love so much. Chaga gives you so much energy, you guys. It's pretty much nuts. The taste of it is this very roasty blend, almost like a roasted coffee blend without the coffee and without the caffeine. So in some of their packets, like their mushroom coffee, or their latte, their matcha lattes. There is caffeine, but I buy the caffeine-free varieties because I've been really thriving on a caffeine-free life, caffeine-free diet, I would say. And that's coming from a former caffeine addict. So I feel really good just using my body's natural energy and then supplementing my natural energy with these adaptogenic mushrooms, with the power of the mushroom kingdom. And if you don't know much about the mushroom kingdom, you're in luck because Taro, who started Four Sigmatic, he's coming on this podcast in a couple weeks. We've recorded our interview. He's awesome. He teaches us all about fungi, and he's been foraging for fungi his whole life. It's pretty awesome. So I just want to share my caffeine-free chaga recipe with you guys because I've talked all about the other products. You know about their mushroom hot cacao that I love, their matcha, but you might not know how to make it at home the way that I do, that I'm always posting on my stories, my Instagram. I mean, the fun thing is you can make it any way you want. Obviously, make it whichever way sounds most delicious to you, but I will share my recipe. So I use about 1/2 cup of hot water and 1/2 cup of steamed coconut milk, 2 tablespoons, which I'm pretty sure is a bit beyond the regular recommendation, but you know me, always pushing the limits, 2 tablespoons of caffeine-free chaga, which will give it a really nice dark roasty taste. And then I blend it up in my Vitamix. If you don't have a blender, you can also mix it with a spoon. And I add a little bit of stevia because I love that sweetness, that natural sweetness. And that's it. You can also add cinnamon. You can add dandelion tea to make it extra potent and extra coffee tasting. But otherwise, that's really my favorite way to go about it. Caffeine-free chaga is where it's at. So to order from Four Sigmatic, we have a special code. Actually, yeah, it's a code. It's also a link you can choose. So you can either go to foursigmatic.com/blonde to get 15% off of your order, which is FOURSIGMATC. Oh my God. matic.com/BLONDE to get 15% off of your order. Or you can go to foursigmatic.com and enter the code BLONDE, all caps, BLONDE at checkout. And either way, you get 15% off. So that's definitely the way to order. Thank you, Four Sigmatic, for sponsoring, for being a part of the tribe. You know, we love you dearly, dearly, dearly. And one of my very good friends, Celeste, just started working for the company. So I'm extra happy. I'm really, really happy for her. It's such a good fit. And I'm happy for them because she's a badass. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode with Guru Jagat and talk all about the Kundalini life. I am sitting here with Guru Jagat, and I am so happy that I know how to pronounce your name.
I know, because small victories.
Right? I've been such a fan ever since I read your book and took your class, and ever since I went down the rabbit hole of Kundalini Yoga, which everybody listening knows that they kind of heard the whole evolution of, I feel like I should try it. It's calling out to me. I hear it, to then starting to take classes, having these crazy out of body experiences, and then just the clarity to make decisions. That's been so helpful for me. So you're here with us today. You're the founder of Rama, which is here in LA, in New York, which I don't even think you know this, stumbled into a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Randomly.
Really?
I was like strolling around the East Village looking for Chill House, which is right across the street.
From Rama, that's right.
Yeah, and then I'm like, wait, Rama, I didn't even know this was open in New York yet. but clearly it is.
Yeah.
So I went in, bought a bunch of crystals.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Everybody in there was so nice. There
They're
was just
very
like
nice.
a guy at the front desk and then a girl who was Skyping with like you, I think.
Yeah,
or
probably.
like your team.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. So you're also the author of Invincible Living, which I devoured. And you do so much. You have a whole team. You have a Rama in Mallorca, and we have your beautiful Mallorcan team here too. So how did you find this path? How did you get into all this?
Well, first of all, thank you for I love to hear, because I think that you're very kind of interstellar in a certain way. And I think it's cool to hear, even though you're also like, the girl next door, but you have like this kind of interstellar thing. And I think it's cool to hear how the Kundalini Yoga affects everyone. I'm always very curious. And how like, you can be looking for meditation, or you can be looking for a little bit, because actually, as you found out, Kundalini Yoga is actually a really good workout. You can be looking for a workout. You can be looking for just a way to kind of calm your mind, or, sleep better, all the kind of modern maladies. And then there's so many points of entry. And so I love to hear everyone's point of entry and what it does for them, because I'm kind of a mad scientist,
Totally.
And I'm always experimenting. We call the big name of Rama is Rama Institute for Applied Yogic Science and Technology. And I really am like a mad scientist. That's kind of so I'm always trying, very excited and interested in what happens when people try to, kind of train their minds and their bodies in a different way, which is really what Kundalini does.
Yeah. So I love that it's applied science, applied yogic science.
Yes.
That is so fascinating to me. And it's one of those things I had heard about Kundalini long before I ever tried it. Yeah. And now I see why.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, and tell us how you got into it. Because I think we brushed right over that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I got into it and then bridge into that part of it. But I was into Ashtanga yoga, a type of vinyasa yoga. And it was back in the early 2000s. And everybody was doing yoga. And especially I was kind of in a scene, like a spiritual scene. I was looking for something. I knew that I didn't want to just kind of get a job and make some money and do all the things that you were told you were supposed to do and watch some television and die. I mean, I knew that wasn't going to be my life. So I was searching for something, and I was in a spiritual community, and everybody was doing Ashtanga, and I was like very begrudgingly. I was like, really? You have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? And and it's just so annoying, and everybody was so kind of self-righteous about it. And I was very begrudgingly started to do some yoga. I much preferred fitness myself. I love dancing and running and doing other things, working out, doing some good weightlifting. I boxed. I used to train with these amazing, old school Brooklyn boxers.
So cool.
I was into that. I'm a very physical person. So I started the Ashtanga, and I'm a dedicated person. So I started doing it every morning. I was like, all right, I want to become a yogi. That's something I want to know what that is. And so started practicing every morning at 5 a.m. And in traditional Ashtanga, it's a silent practice. So it was very deep and contemplative and meditative. And I'm not particularly, my body type is not particularly the Ashtanga body type, which is, first of all, it was created for 16-year-old Indian boys. And I'm a 6 foot tall Amazon woman. And so I was having some rough, physical things with it, just tearing my shoulder cuff and just having some injury, because I was practicing so diligently. Little did I know that once I got into Kundalini, we practice, they do 6 days a week at 5 a.m.-ish, 6 a.m.-ish. And now I, of course, got into Kundalini, and we do 7 days a week at 4 a.m.
Right.
I thought it was so hardcore,
Yeah, so much more intense
yeah, it's
now.
but yeah, we upped the game.
You really did.
But then I went into post 9/11 in New York. Everyone was super freaked out. And I remember I had met this girl who was kind of a mystery. She wore a turban and there was a vibe. And she was like, come to my yoga class. I knew it wasn't what I had known of yoga. So I went. And within 20, 25 seconds, I had like a major kind of mystical experience, kind of what
25 seconds?
I mean, big time, quickly, like the whole kind of lotus of the crown chakra
Whoa.
opened and like the heavens parted and the angels were singing. And I was like, whoa, this hasn't happened to me yet in my 2-hour kind of Mysore practice. And so I was I was hooked right. Like I knew I had found something I'd been looking for. And I think anybody who is kind of hunting for fulfillment, which really like is part of your generation and part of the generations coming behind you, is like a soul group that is not going to just be kind of satisfied with the status quo, which is what's so beautiful about your whole kind of soul group and your peers. And I think, you're hunting for something, you want it to be bigger than what, kind of you saw your parents or your grandparents do. And I think, for me, that was one of those pivotal moments of, whoa, I was looking for this. And that's how you're kind of in your destiny path.
Absolutely. I mean, within the first 25 seconds.
Yeah, it was real.
Because I feel, to me, that means the practice was calling to you and you finally made it there. Yeah. Do you resonate with that? Because lifetimes. I've been practicing for lifetimes. Now that I'm, is 17 years down the road, I've realized in this lifetime, the kind of experiences I've had are memories of times when there hasn't been a time I haven't practiced these types of yogic technologies throughout lifetimes. Wow, that's so amazing. So are you able to see past lifetimes of yours when you go deep into these kriyas and meditations and things that you do?
I mean, I think that's something I talk about a lot. I mean, because I love talking about esoterics, but I do think that on a very pragmatic level, when you start to just clear your mind of some of the insecurities and clutter and just the habits that we get into of focusing on the wrong things and about ourselves and about our lives and how that makes us unhappy, when we start to train ourselves to focus on the right things and go in the momentum of right action, I do feel like it gives you clarity in your mind so that some of the more intuitive aspects that are inherent to all humans come to be more kind of the order of the day. So I feel that we're all psychic. I know we all
right.
are. And that when you talk about the opening of the third eye or some of the more esoteric ways to describe that, I feel it's actually very pragmatic that when you clean up the clutter of the subconscious mind, what's going to fill is your own power, your own intuitive power. And just on the science kind of tip or the yogic science, the neocortex of the brain is the evolutionary brain, and it's this frontal lobe of the brain. And the yogis have known this for 7,000 years, that when you stimulate the frontal centers of the brain, something opens up in you that gives you kind of more empathy, more compassion, more intuitiveness, or what we would call kind of psychic vision. So yes, I do, of course, have those experiences. But I think people have focused on their past lives in a way that's kind of, it doesn't seem like it's actually benefiting their current life. It's like most people can't even deal with their current life.
Yeah.
So who cares about what you were in the past life?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was pretty interested at first when I was diving into the past life stuff. I still am, but I wanted to know everything.
Yeah.
Who was I? Where did I live? What planet was I from? Did I look the way I look now at all?
Yeah.
And then eventually it was like, okay, all of that exists because we're here now. And to focus on this life I've found that to serve me the best, although it's exciting to dive into all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's cool that you go about it in the scientific way, because not only is that so approachable to so many people, but it's also what Kundalini Yoga is. So when it comes to the brain, the nervous system, that's something I'm so interested in. Is that when you first got into the practice, is that something that you started discovering pretty quickly or learned over time?
Well, I think that I was always curious about kind of how the body worked, but it certainly my kind of depth of knowledge as a yogic scientist has happened through kind of experiential learning and then backing that up. Because I'm a scholar. I study all, any free time I have, I study. I'm always looking at research and it's just kind of a passion of mine. And I don't think everybody not everybody relates to it that way, but for me, I do. And so I think it's an exciting time in the research that's happening in the Western scientific kind of realms to compare it to what we've known in yogic science and the kind of practitioners and the experiments and all these practitioners have done for thousands of years. And even the Egyptians, the Eye of Horus, like that's the description of the third eye, the pituitary gland, the pineal gland. And the Egyptians were very into kind of cultivating all of that. And then even when they entombed their priests and priestesses, there was the whole technology about the endocrine system. So yeah, I'm kind of a geek about it all. And, but that's backed up with experience. Cause I do think what has happened is that we're no longer in an age of knowledge, that means that, people can know a lot of things, but those things anybody can know. You can right now Google, and I recommend that you do, the endocrine system or the pineal gland or some of the, if you're interested in the Egyptian stuff, you can right now Google that on your smartphone, on your computer, whatever you're listening to this, and you can find a million people who know way more than I know about that. However, the experience, this is what Yogi Bhajan, the master of Kundalini Yoga, talked about in this age, this is the age of experience. So those who actually have the experience that can back up the knowledge, they become the leaders and the people who are kind of leading this new age, because experience is something that can't be taken from you. And it's something that is a transformative force. And so I think that's part of, so yes, I've had a lot of experience to teach me like, whoa, that's my central nervous system. That's the neurons just changed in my brain. Like, when you're learning something new, like I always try to learn something new every year. So right now I'm studying deeply hula dancing and like all the traditions of like sacred dance in the Polynesian and Tahitian. Yeah. Like a year before I did a lot of hip hop but when you're doing something new, you can feel your brain. You can feel it like viscerally, your brain is changing. And that's the feeling of the neocortex and the central cortex of the brain and the firing of the neurons and the synapses. I mean, it's a tangible feeling. So I think it's cool to also like kind of root that in a real kind of, okay, this is the biology of my emotions. This is the biochemistry. I can actually command that through my breath and through certain mental focuses. And that's kind of the whole yogic science game.
Right. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. I also think it's so cool that you're learning hula dancing.
It's amazing.
I'm always so fascinated by people who are known for this one specific thing. You're such the Kundalini guru, and here you are doing all this other stuff. And that's what fascinates me, is who people are. And it seems like something you love is learning new things.
Yes.
So you're always going to be trying totally different things that are so separate from Kundalini, yet also probably have similarities with like linking the breath with the movement.
100%. Yeah. I really, I do so much work with women. We just came off of this crazy women's retreat. We're all like buzzing, cool. Called Camp Grace. And my teacher, Yogi Bhajan, was also very committed for his whole time on earth. He really committed his life to teaching, particularly once he moved to America, the Western woman, right, and how to be in this new time. And he predicted what's happened in the past year, 2, 3, it's just a whole new time for women on the planet. So really a big focus of my work is the women's work. And my whole message to women is that first of all, women hold the vibration of the future, because we create, whether we choose to create a human child or not, we have the capacity. And so, a modern woman really has to have the capacity of a very kind of, priestess, what it truly means to be kind of this wide open channel. And that requires, I feel, a very full spectrum of practice. And I think, the movement of learning how to move energy in your body as a woman, I mean, it's one of our greatest powers, and it's not age specific, and it's not, you don't have to always be 25 to be able to create like a really deep, powerful vitality and energy in your body. And I think that's an important thing to because, time will turn us all down.
Yeah.
And it's definitely part of my teaching of like how to be like a really well-rounded woman. So yeah, I try to practice what I preach. So I'm always learning new things. And the hula, I mean, it is so sacred and so deep. And so, and the men, I mean, if you want to look at something hot, Google like men's hula dancing. It's like the hottest thing you've ever seen. It's
I need to check it out.
I mean,
That's
these men
so
are
cool.
such warriors, like from the Polynesian Tahitian traditions. It's, it's some soft porn.
Oh, I'm going to look into that.
You have fun with that.
For sure. I was just in Maui and I did a Polynesian fusion workout for the first time in my life, which was like a lot of pushing and pulling of the bamboo sticks and all the other rain sticks that they brought. And it's all using your body
It's a good workout.
We were all so sore. It was unreal.
Sweaty.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Yeah. Dripping sweat in the sun. And they infused so much culture into it. And it was really fun.
Yeah.
Really
Next time
fun.
you're in Maui, I have to send you to my kumu. She's amazing.
Please do. I'll be there in June.
Okay.
I go a lot. It's like my second home.
You totally have to meet her. We'll connect you guys. She's amazing.
I would love that. I only learned recently about all of the spirituality on Maui. I've been going my whole life, but my family had no idea.
Yeah, you guys are like in Waikiki.
Seriously, we're like chilling in Wailea on the beach. And then I learned about Lumeria and all the awesome stuff.
Yeah, that's where we had a relationship. Me and my boyfriend, John Wineland, had a relationship course at Lumeria this year. It was amazing.
Next time I'm coming, that's your boyfriend?
John Wineland,
Oh, I heard him on Luke Story's podcast.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yes. I didn't know.
Yes.
Look at you two. Yeah. That's such a power duo in so many ways.
I know. He's a hunk.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, I love that. Speaking of relationships and love and passion and all that good stuff, I wanted to thank our second sponsor for today's episode, Whoo Foreplay. So Whoo Foreplay is this incredible brand that I have been so into ever since I discovered it. It is a coconut oil-based lubricant for sex. So let me tell you why I'm so passionate about this. I think, especially in this Aquarian age, as Guru Jagat and I talk about a lot in this episode, women are being called to the forefront and women are taking their power back. And in one big way, I feel like women, at least where I grew up and kind of my experience and many of my earlier relationships in life, women don't have the tools to believe that they can bring products into the bedroom and take control of their own sex life and make it really special and really sexy and really beautiful and this divinely feminine experience. And when it comes to products that we use when we're having sex, so literally on the insides of our bodies, some of our most precious organs, the center of our femininity, our womb, our uterus, these are areas we want to take care of and make sure we're using organic premium products. And as women, I think that's something we know a lot about, especially women who listen to this podcast, wellness, addicted people. We know what's up. We know what ingredients we want to put in our bodies and on our bodies and which ones we don't. So that's why I love Whoo Foreplay. They use just a few ingredients, very short ingredient list. They use organic coconut oil, organic stevia, organic vanilla essence, and organic beeswax. So there's a reason why they use that range of ingredients, and it's because they all work together to stimulate you and make you feel really good, because number one, first and foremost, that's what the product is about, making your sex life better. Also, it's antiviral, antifungal, non-GMO, antibacterial, organic, natural, raw, all that good stuff. It's completely coconut based. So if you've ever on your own started using coconut oil in the bedroom, then you know how good it feels and how good it is for us inside and out. So this product really blends a bunch of things that I love the most. It feels smooth and silky. And another thing I love is that the packaging is very sleek, very premium, very cute, something that you don't find with other products that are for the bedroom. So I think you'll really enjoy this. You can find it at whooforeplay.com. That's woofoforplay.com, and enter the promo code BLONDE when you get there. That is BLONDE. wooforeplay.com, promo code BLONDE. That will get you 10% off of your first order and free shipping. Check it out. You'll love it. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Now let's dive back into this episode with Guru Jagat. Love is so special.
It is.
Do you feel like being in love has increased the power within everything that you do even more?
Well, I feel that being in love is misunderstood in our culture. And that's why we have so many relationship issues because, so it is it's a big topic. I think relationship is something that is, I think, on everybody's mind and hearts because it is one of the most fulfilling things, but it's also the greatest yoga. And John and I do a lot of work together. We do a lot of teaching together. And I feel it's one of the greatest spiritual journeys. If you really want to, I always say like part of the work of being a relationship is really making their emotional experience more important than your own at times. And if you do that, I mean, that's what they call in Buddhism being a bodhisattva, is anytime you can put someone in front of your own kind of emotional needs and freakouts and blame and projections and in the thick of a relationship, that's the true spiritual work. So I really try to walk the talk, and it's a good walk with him. But I'm really into the yoga relationship. I had a beautiful first marriage as well. That was great teaching.
Oh, me. Wow. Yeah, you must have learned so much from that whole experience.
So much. It's I don't think everyone, especially in this day and age, like there was just that Time cover. I don't know if you saw it, of Time magazine, where it's a woman with her ring finger up. I'm trying to do it with her ring finger up.
Yeah,
and it's empty, and there's a hummingbird. And it says, like, I can't remember what the title is, but it's talking about basically single women being like the single most powerful force on the planet right now. And so I think that it's beautiful that women can also have sovereignty in a different way. And that maybe it's not, a relationship isn't just the only focus, but in my experience, a good relay between people who are mature and love and respect each other. Everything else, you can have everything. And that is like really one of the treasures, both with yourself and with someone that you love.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Well, next time you do a relationship retreat,
we'll get you there, girl. I saw your hunk of a boyfriend.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. How long have you been with him?
We've been together for a little over a year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We were best friends for 3 years before we started dating. So it's always this thing where we feel like we've been together for so long. But I also know that before we were together, I was in and out of all these other much less healthy relationships, and then completely single, which was so powerful.
It is powerful.
That's when I started this podcast. That's when I started really getting on the path to every health that I have in my body now. So I definitely recognize the power of that. And when people ask me, how do I find my twin flame or this amazing love that you found, this spiritual person? I always just say, first, love yourself and really do it, because you can talk about loving yourself all day long. Yeah. But when I dropped everything else and just wasn't looking and got so clear, that's when my best friend Jonathan all of a sudden seemed like the most appealing person in the whole world to me, and vice versa.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. How long have you and John been together?
6 years.
6 years. That's awesome.
So we're actually past 6 years now. Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe I had no idea.
Well,
I usually stalk people to the point of knowing.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of YouTube stuff out there, but also like, I don't, we're not like constantly posting pictures of,
Yeah. I always saw your image as very like, I don't know. I just thought that you were just single and like, I don't know if I got that from your book. Maybe it's just because you do so much. That's you and your businesses and I don't know. It's so interesting to me.
He's like my greatest business advisor. He's helped me so much with business. He's a wonderful businessman and just like so smart and such a grounding force. So yeah.
So good to have that.
Yeah.
So cool. So let's talk about Yogi Bhajan being your teacher because getting into Kundalini, learning about it, obviously that was the first name that I saw.
Yeah.
He brought Kundalini to the West and he was your teacher. He gave you your name and you were in his presence for the last couple years of his life, if I understand correctly. So tell us what that was like.
Well, I was young and, dumb, basically. So I knew on some level that I had to go to the ashram and be in the aura and be in his presence. But I didn't really understand until much later what the treasure of that was. And honestly, a lot of people talk about him being, him coming to them in dreams or while they're meditating or this kind of thing. And he said often, especially at the end of his life, that when he got more transparent, he actually could do more work because the physical body was less limiting, to him. So he was very excited to graduate out of his physical body and this was his last incarnation on earth in that way. And so he definitely was excited to get out of his body to do more of the kind of etheric work. And a lot of the great teachers of our time in this last part of what is called the Age of Pisces, the Piscean Age, have decided that they're not going to reincarnate, including the Dalai Lama, a couple years ago made the announcement. He's had 14 reincarnations. This is the 14th Dalai Lama, and he made the announcement that he's not going to reincarnate. I've had several of my kind of root gurus, we'll call them, have decided not to reincarnate, including another Rinpoche that passed in 2000, right at the end of 2015 at 16. And he told his students, do not look for me. I'm not reincarnating. So it's kind of interesting. And I have a theory, and my living teacher, Hadi Jivan, and I we've talked about, like, basically we're in an age where you can Google, like anybody right now can go on YouTube and watch Yogi Bhajan speak. You can watch Krishnamurti. You can watch Amma. You can watch, all of these great spiritual teachers. And things are changing on the planet now. And the whole kind of that whole way of being and the need for it is changing. And so I really look at kind of my work on the planet as more of as an artist, as a creator. I think that part of what I try to kind of transmit through my own life is that if you are creative and you create on a daily basis as a spiritual practice, this is going to give you kind of the fruits of the creative powers, which are really why we're here. Not the destructive powers, not the self-destructive, which is a path well trodden, but that we're really here to create and create love and create ingenious. And Stephen Hawkins just died this last night or yesterday afternoon. That kind of genius if he wouldn't have gone through his challenges and done what he did anyways, we would never have the great kind of legacy he left behind. So I think that's kind of the way that I see how to be a leader or a teacher now in this age. It's changed. And Yogi Bhajan was kind of the last of that era, as well as His Holiness and some of these other teachers. And so that's just a theory. I don't know if I'm right, and so it was a great treasure to just be in his aura for a little bit of those last years. And it's also, I feel that I'm very lucky to have a relationship with my living teacher, Hadi Jivan, because I think in any sector, like take it out of spirituality, people talk about mentorship or having a teacher or having a guide of some sort. It's really the most powerful relationship for your progress. And I think anybody you ask who's really successful will tell you, I had a really good mentor or guide or teacher, and I feel that that's really the key to my success, as I both was able to spend that last little bit with Yogi Bhajan. And then I also have an incredible teacher who is living. And I'm very lucky.
Yeah. That's so lucky to have both.
I really feel lucky.
Yeah. So, well, that's amazing. And the Piscean age that you're talking about, now we're in the Aquarian age. Tell us what that means. I'm sure so many people listening don't know. And yeah, what is it? What are some concepts?
Yeah, well, it's an astrological phenomenon. There's basically a wobble of the earth. And because of that wobble, it creates this, when the earth is turning, it creates this the way the axis points towards a constellation in the galaxy. And that's kind of the way that you determine these big spans of time called the Age of Pisces, Age of Aquarius. Before that, the Age of Aries.
How long do they last?
They last about 2,000 and change years. So you think like for the Age of Pisces, BC to AD was the change into the Age of Pisces. And now, just like many of the prophecies of many different lineages, including most notably probably the Mayan prophecy, but also this astrological prophecy, now we've moved since basically the Earth hit, the axis of the Earth pointed at the galactic center of the Milky Way galaxy on the 21st of December 2012, which is the Mayan prophecy, the end of the Mayan calendar, and many of the other kind of prophecies. Even you see some of that prophecy in kind of the last chapter of the Bible, or just different types of prophecy around the change of age. And in that change of age, we went from an age of the people who had the power were the people who knew the most. And part of the cusp time of the change of age was the advent of the internet. So from basically 1991 to 2012 was this kind of cusp period. And we're still really just a scratch into it, into the Age of Aquarius. But that was the cusp period, and that was the advent of the internet. So all of a sudden, those who had the knowledge or the know-how in this Age of Pisces, it was like if somebody knew how to do something, you travel for days to find out, or if they knew something about, you travel, this was the age, and then all of a sudden the internet came. And so you would say before Christ, after Christ, well, before the internet, after the internet.
Right.
And so now it's no longer, anybody can get all of the knowledge. And Yogi Bhajan talked about this, and people made fun of him. I mean, they thought he was ridiculous.
They didn't think it would actually happen.
No, he said in the 70s, we're going to have a phone, we're going to have a handheld device that with one touch of a button, you're going to have all knowledge available at your fingertip. And everybody was like, oh yeah, whatever. I mean, they couldn't comprehend it.
Of course.
So the internet kind of basically midwifed in this new age of the change of power, which is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing this very kind of shaky, the structures that were upheld by this Age of Pisces, these are the types of people and the way that people hold power. Well, that's all shifting now, and we're watching it before our very eyes. So now it's anybody can work in a different way and create something. I mean, the millennial generation is the generation has really brought in the kind of new constructs of the Aquarian Age, where it's like, no, we actually can work in co-working spaces. We can work from home. We can travel around the world. There's just been a whole different, and every aspect of society has to be reworked to be resonant with this new time on the planet. And so we're seeing that now, and including the, the rights of women, women's health, women's, the pay discrepancy still in 2018, the whole movements, the movements that are happening in the women's space. And then also for men, I mean, how did their functionary duties change? And it's not just gender specific, it's politics, it's economics, the rise of cryptocurrency, everything is changing. And so that's, you're really seeing it before your very eyes, this age of Aquarius. And now each age comes with its issues. And the age of Aquarius, this technological age, is coming with the issues of the pressures of technology and the pressures of what that does to the human psyche and the way people, just like spend. This didn't happen before, but now, whereas people used to compete against each other, like in terms of like how big their house was next door, what now, people are on social media comparing and competing and all that kind of, and the depletion of what the kind of falsehoods of the technology and I have a little theory about virtual reality, which I just came up with this weekend, which is that part of the good part of people just being like in like strange virtual reality experiences for hours on end is maybe will consume less plastic and resources on the planet, because people are getting their rocks off in virtual reality, which does take electricity, but it doesn't. So I don't know. I have a little theory about it. I was really, because these virtual reality kids who have like this arcade moved in under John.
No way.
It's been a nightmare. I feel like we're both like, we're so old, and we feel like these like our like annoying teenagers just moved in under, because people, the kids will come and do the virtual reality and just screaming for hours on end. It's awful.
That is nuts.
It's nuts. But I've been thinking about it. I'm like, how is this technology? Because all of it is everything that's created is a part of the creative power, So I've been thinking about how is this going to help humanity instead of like be the downfall. Anyways, it's something I think about. This is what keeps me up at night.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Yeah. I haven't thought about that at all because, I don't know that many people who are into virtual reality, but I know it's a big thing,
huge,
especially for a lot of the younger gamer type of people. That's really interesting to think that they're living in this virtual reality, so maybe they won't be contributing to the waste here in the same way. I wouldn't have thought about it that way.
Theory. I literally just had this weekend, like in a meditation.
Love it. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I would love to just hear all the theories that pop into your brain while you meditate. When I took your class, it's been like a month and a half ago now. So many little things that you said that were like, oh, this is my theory that popped into my head yesterday, and this and that is just amazing. And it goes to show, like you said, everybody has that access, which is so incredible. So first of all, I'm getting chills too at so many different things you're saying about many of your teachers choosing not to reincarnate, which brings me to the question, do you know how many lives you have reincarnated?
Yeah, I've had a couple of the types that do stuff like that tell me some things about it, but I certainly feel like I've been around for a while.
Yeah.
Because there are people who come to the earth who, a lot of the new, like you're pretty out there.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely
this might be your first time on earth.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot of them, like a lot of the younger soul generations are like the crystal children and the rainbow children, and some of these terms that maybe you've heard, or some of your listeners, and the indigos and all this kind of stuff, which is more my generation. But a lot are kind of interstellar soul types that are coming from places that are more kind of foreign to Earth, and are seeding a new way of kind of living that they've come, from their particular planetary kind of matrices and galaxy kind of their star seeds. So I think that there's a lot of that going on right now. I do feel I've spent a lot of time on this planet because I'm in some way, like I'm a shepherd of this planet in some way. Like I do feel connected to this kind of planetary matrix for whatever reason, but I don't know how many lifetimes exactly.
Yeah. I know. I was curious because you said like the Dalai Lama 14 times. I'm like, is this something we can all figure out? No, totally.
But the Tibetans, the great high beings, the Rinpoches, they are, they have a very specific kind of system of reincarnation that is a part of their lineage.
That makes sense. Yeah. I know Jonathan, my boyfriend, always says he has to teach me how to be a human because there's so many things that I'm just don't do. And he's such a human. And I feel like I'm definitely from the stars.
Yes.
So just simple things like paying attention while you're driving.
Right.
Putting something back in the same place that it's supposed to be in here.
It's so bothersome, this particular earth, the kind of these things we have to do.
It really is. It's like I have to put so much concentration into those simple, basic human things. But every day, his phrase is, "You're not from here.
Yeah.
I'll teach you."
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, he's really sweet.
That's sweet.
He's the sweetest. Aww. So how do you, being a teacher and teaching all of the time, protect your energy? Because I'm just so interested by this. You give so much of yourself in so many different places. And then you still have all this energy and vitality. How do you do that?
Well, I do feel that the Kundalini, when you're really moving chi or Kundalini energy through your system, it's a self-regenerative kind of, all of us have a self-regenerative system. And I was actually talking about this morning in class that I think a lot of times we get confused that like if we're going to take a reishi mushroom or if we're going to take some sort of probiotic or if we're going to eat a certain way, we've basically externalized our vitality when actually the system is organized and intelligent to create and maintain the most incredible vitality. They actually did a study at Stanford that showed that the human body is actually meant to live for 1,000 years. But because of the way we misappropriate and misunderstand our chi and our energy source, we aren't able to basically do that. Now, there's many, many stories of yogis and masters and great kind of beings that have lived for well over 150, 200, 300 years all over China, Tibet, India. I mean, that's kind of a normal thing that you have a great master that lives, quite long. And that I think all has to do with the ability to move energy and then resource from that energy. And I think that's one of the greatest benefits from the Kundalini rising or the Kundalini practice and the technology of the Kundalini Yoga is that you'll start to kind of self-generate in every way. So you self-generate your own kind of appreciation of yourself, which is like another way of terming your practice. Like your practice is a self-acknowledgement. So you start to generate more of that self kind of acknowledgement and you start to resource more of your innate human capacity, which is huge. We don't know how to access it. Yogi Bhajan says between God and human, there's a door, and that door is called Kundalini. So that's the infinite resource starts to open up in you. And so I would just say, like, I think that a lot of people talk about, I really need to protect myself, or I need self-care, somebody's like vampiring off of me, or, there's a lot of these kind of new age terms. And I do my best to really start to redefine that, because I do feel that if you are kind of in a practice that you know how to command your own energy field, aura, whatever you want to call it, and you know how to kind of batten down the hatches when you need to, which I do all the time. I travel all the time. And I don't need to be like bright, brilliant, shining throughout the airport, Guru Jagat. When I travel, I like to pull the whole thing way down. because I don't need
Right.
extra attention. I don't want to deal with any, so, and people innately who have big lives, I think know, or at least they start to learn how to do that, where, you kind of like, we live in LA. So it's like you put your
Right.
sunglasses on, you put your hat, whatever, there's
Exactly.
ways that you can kind of, and that's being a yogi, is knowing like when to be really big and when to like kind of shrink it down and be, more kind of contained, so that you don't, and literally it's a physical thing, the aura. So it can be really big, which means you're going to be bumping into everybody,
Right.
or you bring it down and you have it a little bit more tight and you can kind of maneuver a little. So it's good to have that. But I think the idea of like, I have to protect myself from some external thing is part of this leftover hangover of the Age of Pisces, which is somehow we believe that our power is externalized, and that's not if you're vibrating a certain vibration, nothing that is not of that vibration can even get near you unless you have somehow let in some of that, subconsciously or consciously. And that's when, it's not a blame game, but then you can kind of get like, I'm kind of leaking out my energy. That's what you really need to protect yourself from. That's what mantra means. Mantra is basically a code of self-protection, which is not self-protection from other people. It's protecting yourself from you, your neurosis, your mind, your freakouts, your emotional, commotional kind of misappropriations of energy. Like mantra protects you from you, which is what Yogi Bhajan used to say. Like there is no you don't have to have an enemy, because there's no greater enemy than you towards you. The way we treat ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we, yeah, I think that's where the mantric science comes in, where sound becomes a buffer. And it also becomes a buffer in the external world. Definitely some of the mantras are very protective in the external world, but then it's also a buffer from the internal neurosis and habits and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that all makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I'm definitely an energy leaker. I think it just leaks out of me whenever I'm around people. And then I feel like I take on so much other negative energy while I'm out and about. And then I get exhausted. So people with this like limitless vitality are so interesting to me.
We got to get you some mantras busting up in here, girl.
Yeah,
we need to get you like the mantra box. We'll work it out. We'll help you out.
Because
you start to play them. You don't even have to know them or chant them. You just play, put it over in this corner and play the thing. And it starts to it creates a more vibrational kind of cocoon, so that then it infuses into your aura, it infuses into your physical space everywhere. When my boyfriend comes over, I have like 18 like old like ragis like chanting on all of my, and he's like, can you turn that down a little bit?
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, you need it. Yeah. Well, I just got a Sonos sound system. It's like everywhere. So I need to just blast.
We got to blast it.
Some mantras. Yeah.
And my Huddy even has a band, Grammy award-winning band, White Sun.
Grammy award-winning.
Yeah, they won the New Age Grammy last year, and we're going to win it again this year because they have a new album coming out, White Sun 3, and his Gong album's coming out on April 27th. It's available for pre-order, but you could play that gong around here. That would be awesome. It helps you sleep. It gives you it totally replenishes the parasympathetic nervous system. It's great for anxiety, so we got to get you downloaded.
I need all of that. Oh, that's so awesome.
Amazing. It's like white noise. So even if you don't like mantra, you can play that gong. And if say your boyfriend's like, what's that playing?
Right. He likes that stuff.
Okay, cool.
Even more than
you
I
have
do.
a good boyfriend.
Yeah.
But for the rest of you listening, you can play the gong and you can just slip them the Mickey. They don't even know. And it just sounds like white noise.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's such a good tip for everyone looking to preserve, protect their energy, or not protect their energy, since you said that's not a big term that you like, but to keep the vitality in your aura.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yogi Bhajan called it the golden shield, that your aura, if you know how to use it, becomes a shield of negativity and and again, you from your own, and then also from the external, which as within is without. So of course, if you're in a negative spin, you know how that thing happens, where it's like you're pissed off and then everything breaks that day.
Of course.
It's just the way it goes.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so we'll go into the rapid fire questions that I ask everyone.
Awesome.
They don't have to be that fast, but they're just the questions that I ask everyone who comes on. So what are your spiritual practices outside of Kundalini?
Outside of Kundalini, well, I'm really into sacred dance. So any sort of sacred dance, which I think all dance is sacred, but I come to it as a sacred, in a sacred way. I walk 5 miles a day. That's like one of my new things. It's changing my life.
So good.
I'm a big walker, and not like power walker, but like walk to smell and feel, and we'll listen to podcasts and educate yourself, and, or be with friends. And, in Los Angeles, I realized last year I would look at my pedometer, and it would be like, you walked, 85 steps today. And I was like, what?
Totally.
I mean, I barely
freaky.
got out. I mean, how is that possible? So I really made a commitment in December, 10,000 steps a day, and it's changed my life. So that's one of my big practices. I'm a huge classical Pilates fan, huge. I love Joseph Pilates. I think he was a master and such a incredible mind. And so I love some Pilates.
Yeah, Pilates is so good.
It's not particularly spiritual, but I'll tell you, he was very spiritual.
I didn't know that.
And he came up with a system that basically, in a hospital bed, he took the springs out of the mattress and put them on the side of the hospital bed and rigged up what was the first reformer. And he was a genius.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pilates has been calling my name lately.
I am really into it as just it's so rejuvenative, and it's very mental. So it is like a meditation. When it's practiced classically, it's like a moving meditation. It really is. So, but and then I have all of the meditations I have to do every day. So it's a lot. I can't,
a lot of stuff.
It's a lot. I chant a lot.
Yeah.
And
Lots of stuff happening in your day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you do the cold showers thing.
Cold showers, hardcore.
Yeah. I started doing that. I read about it in your book.
Yeah.
And then when I took your class, I don't think I talked to you about this, but I talked to
Hadman Jotes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Told her all about, I had eczema all over my body, really bad when I was in your class, but also that whole period of time.
Yeah.
And she said cold showers.
Yes.
So of course I came home, started doing the cold showers.
Has it helped?
Yeah, it has helped so much.
I am so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Good job, Jordan.
I had to do so much stuff to get rid of the eczema and the hives, but it at least felt really, really good versus I'm such a hot shower, hot bath person.
Yeah.
But the cold showers did a lot.
It's powerful, and it's so anti-aging and so good for your immune system. And we're just in Idlewild, which is way colder, way higher elevation.
I heard from Britt and Tara. They said
those
it was
cold
freezing.
showers.
Yeah.
That was real. That was real.
Yeah, seriously. So what is your dream vacation?
I really want to go on safari in Africa.
Oh, that sounds so
my
cool.
big. My favorite movie when I was 5 years old was Out of Africa. My mom was totally weirded out that a 5-year-old watched a 3-hour movie,
right?
And then continued to watch it throughout my life. But so of course I have this whole Meryl Streep, Jodhpur, really good equestrian, Ralph Lauren outfits in in Africa, because I had a farm in Africa.
Yes.
It's a whole thing,
Oh my gosh, I love it. I think those safaris seem so cool.
Oh my God,
too.
I'm so into it. And I do want to take a big group as well and just get down. Yeah, especially with what's happening, in Africa. It's important to stimulate the economy any way we can in the right ways.
Yeah, so true. Favorite crystal, if you have one.
My God. This is the most difficult question you've asked.
I know.
Let's see. My favorite crystal. Well, I love apophyllite because it's so celestial. And so I have a lot of apophyllite around, and especially the Indian apophyllite. There's something about it that and any crystals from Mount Kaleshwar in Tibet are my soul.
I'm so glad this is all on recording, so I can go get some.
We have some at Rama. We're gonna have a huge crystal trunk show on spring equinox if you're around.
Oh,
so
yeah, I'll be there. Wait, when is the spring equinox?
It's Tuesday.
Oh,
March 20th.
March 20th
this year. Yeah.
Okay. So it's
Yeah,
coming
we're having a big
up.
class and stuff. We'll
Yeah,
make sure
I'll
you come.
totally come.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, we know who a lot of your mentors and teachers are, but do you have others that you haven't mentioned?
Well, obviously the first teacher is always your mother. You know, the mother is the first teacher. And my mother is just an incredible woman. She was like the first dance movement therapist to like her class was the first dance movement therapy class in America.
Wow.
And she, you know, before anybody knew anything about somatic psychology and body-centered psychology and just the body mind in general, she was really an incredible pioneer. And also, fun fact about my great teacher of my mother, she had a healing clowning side gig where she used clowning, not in like the weird horror film way, but like in the way of like therapeutic clowning. She used, and she had a whole clown persona named Madame Fufu. And she would go and do therapeutic clowning with special needs children. And it would like, that's like I have these images of my mom doing that, just like such a beautiful, compassionate woman. So I was very, very lucky to, and am lucky to have a mother like her.
She sounds amazing.
She's amazing.
I've never even heard of someone doing that before, but it sounds so therapeutic and it was probably so fun for the kids. Yeah.
And then she had me like get my little like, you know, alter ego, which of course I don't remember the name of mine, but I remember hers, Madame Fufu.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
She sounds amazing. If you weren't doing this for a living, what do you think you would be doing?
I think I'd be a chef.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I'm a major like hobby chef. And and for a period of time in my 20s, I did chef for people as a part of their yoga and other healing regimens. But yeah, I love cooking and I love just the love of the hearth, you know, creating love through food, tangible love.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to make?
I'm really into making Mediterranean food. Like I love doing like a beautiful kind of coursed Greek, but like mama, like grandma Greek food, you know, like really delicious, like braised greens and all sorts of, you know, I'm vegetarian, but if I'm cooking for somebody else, like, you know, you do the fried eggs and the greens and the spanakopita and all the like herbs. They do a lot of greens actually in true Greek cooking. There's a lot of like greens. So I'm into that part of it. And then also just all of the other deliciousness. And we have that studio in Mallorca. So like I'm into the Mediterranean food.
Yeah, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
Love good Mediterranean food. And then our final question, if you were a color, what color do you feel best represents your energy?
Platinum gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Why platinum gold?
It's, you know, when I meditate that like it's a gold that's almost completely transparent. So I guess the best way I could put it is platinum, but that's a color that really like I always see when I close my eyes. But it's like a transparent gold.
Wow. I'm like closing my eyes now to see what I see. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I was excited. I was so excited to see what you were going to say to that question because it could have very easily been white, given the Kundalini white garb, everything. But I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. Whoa. So tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes, I'm at Guru Jagat on Instagram, and it's GuruJagat. And then same thing for my website, gurujagat.com. And then you can kind of find the whole world of Rama and all of our adventures. We're going to Tibet in October, and we're on Mallorca. We're having the first annual Rama Festival. Maybe you can come and do something.
Yes.
It would be so great to have you, which is in August, 17th or 19th in August. And then we're going to be in Singapore. If you have your listeners out in Asia,
we do.
Awesome. We're going to be in Singapore at Capella, Singapore, August 10th through the 12th for actually a big women's event. And
amazing.
Some cool stuff there. So love to see all of your great fans out in the world.
All the Soul on Fire tribe. I just saw someone this morning saying in our Facebook group, who lives in Hong Kong? Because I'm moving there and I don't know anybody. And some other girls were like, oh, we're close by.
Good.
It's amazing.
It is. The world is getting smaller. I know.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here. This was so fun.
I know.
So fun to learn from you.
Get a moment with you.
I know.
And bless you for the work you're doing.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode with Guru Jagat. I know you're probably inspired and learned so much and your head is spinning, and everything I felt after we finished this conversation and she stood up in my apartment. She's just such a force. She is so powerful, the kind of woman I aspire to be and am so inspired by every day. And you guys have heard me say this before, but I'm really dying to do a Kundalini teacher training, and I think she would be such an amazing teacher for me. I see so much in her that I just want to learn from and want to reflect back and forth with her. In fact, I was dying to ask her, but didn't get the chance to while she was here, what her human design energy type is, which you guys might have learned about if you listened to our episode with Jenna Zoe 2 weeks ago. I'm a reflector, and I feel like Guru Jagat could be a reflector, or maybe like a manifesting generator, because she definitely has an engine of her own that really keeps her going. So she's phenomenal. I learned so many takeaways about energy, where it comes from, how we preserve it, how we take care of ourselves. Kundalini, of course. I mean, she is such a rock star. I will hopefully be doing a lot with her in the future, so definitely stay tuned, because she is going on a bit of a world tour and has a lot of fun things coming up. So there's all that. And I wanted to remind you that if you feel inspired and called to rate and review the podcast, you can do so on iTunes. And when you do that, you can send me a screenshot to jordan@thebalancedblonde.com, and I will send you my blogging tips and tricks document to thank you for taking time out of your busy day, your precious schedule to rate and review this podcast and subscribe if you love it. So I really don't check my email that much lately, because I've just found it really isn't where I feel inspired, believe it or not. But the one thing that I check it pretty religiously for is for you guys emailing me when you've rated and reviewed the podcast, because I don't like to leave you hanging, and I like to send the blogging document as quickly as I can, usually the same day, sometimes a day or two if I'm really not on my computer. I'm going to Bali so soon, you guys, so I really won't be on my computer as much then, but I will have my assistant, Jane, be checking out my email to make sure that you guys get your blogging tips and tricks document. Duh. So thank you for being here. Feel free to join our Soul on Fire podcast tribe on Facebook if you're not already a part of it, to keep the conversation going, to connect, to talk to many of our previous guests are in there. I don't even know if Guru Jagat has a Facebook. If she does, I'm totally adding her. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'm sending you all my love, all my good vibes, all of the highest Kundalini energy, Kundalini rising for you to take with you on this lovely day. And I just want you to know that I love you deeply from the bottom of my heart. I'm very grateful for all of you. You make this life I live possible, and what I care the most about is sending that love right back to you. So I hope you feel it. So much love. Mwah. Have an amazing day.